Mr. Ryan Tuckwood.
So Ryan, if someone was to master the skills that you teach, what impact is that going to have on their life?
It's interesting. We've done 94 boot camps now over the last 9 years. The most common feedback is I had absolutely no idea how much this was going to impact me on a personal level.
You went to Necker Island with Richard Branson for 5 days. What were the 3 massive takeaways you took from there?
I think I went from a 300-person event to a 1,000-person event, had no idea how we were going to do it, and then we did it. Stop trying to sell to people, stop studying sales, study humans. Like, even if nobody comes to us, never does any of our training, just go and read about human psychology, behavioral science, and why people make decisions.
That's quite a disparity from coaching a receptionist to a CEO of organizations that turn over hundreds of millions, if not billions. How does one person teach both of those people at the same time?
So this isn't about selling a product. This is about
So the lads are back for another episode on the couch with the famous Mr. Ryan Tuckwood.
the counselling couch.
Yeah,
Thanks for this intervention.
Casting.
That's the bit that doesn't go in the podcast, thankfully.
So Ryan, if someone was to master the skills and techniques that you teach, what impact is that going to have on their life?
Starting slow, are we?
Bang.
It can impact every single aspect of their life, personally, professionally. It's interesting. We've done 94 boot camps now over the last 9 years, been in business 10 years. We started our events a year in. And the most common feedback, bar none, is I had absolutely no idea how much this was going to impact me on a personal level. So obviously we teach sales or interpersonal and communication skills. If you hate the word sales and you insert the word communication, where does communication stop impacting you? The answer is nowhere. That could be in personal relationships with loved ones, siblings, parents. It could be with your with your partner. It could be your colleagues inside of work. It could be going to get a job interview. You guys are masters of that scenario. Like, how do I put my best foot forward to a potential employer? How do I represent my business in the right light as a boss to get the right talent? It could be in conflict resolution, and we work in healthcare, in education, with the government, politicians. The communication just crosses every single sector. Trying to get my kids to go to bed on time. And I never created a business because I wanted it to do all of those things. I thought I was going to help people make sales over the phone. And I think I've realized very quickly that there's not a single person on this planet that cannot communicate their message in a more effective and efficient manner.
At what stage did you realize that this was beyond just helping people sell?
It's an awesome question. I think when we started to get into companies and we were doing the corporate training, we'd introduce ourselves to a receptionist, administrator, whoever's on the front desk. We'd get walked to a boardroom, and then you'd start to see people that weren't supposed to be in the room start to come into the room. And like, you'd get the odd receptionist or there'll be a head of people and culture or HR just be like, so what's going on in here? And they just stand at the door, peer in, maybe hear like one little language pattern. And then they walk in the door, sit down. Well, before you know it, they're starting to make notes. Or it was like the CEO would come in and they go, just seeing who's turned up. But then they don't leave. And then all of a sudden they're sitting there for 3 hours. And we were only supposed to be there to train their sales team, which is why I'm now such a fan of not having sales teams, but having a sales culture, because everyone can impact the experience that the customers have. So I think once we got into the corporates and we got exposed to the greater team. So now, previous to that, we were training salespeople to find jobs in sales. So we only attracted the salespeople. Once those businesses that we placed people into work saw the results we got, they said, well, hold on, can you now train the rest of my sales team? We'd then go to their offices. And that's where we got to see the rest of their teams. We never said, we're going to train your whole team. They just started to sneak in. And then we realized we could adapt the content to speak to somebody answering the phone on the front end, somebody in retention, somebody in customer support. It started to grow from there. I've never been asked that before. That's a great question.
Did you find pushback from the receptionist, from the back office team, when you say, I know one of your favorite things is everyone's in sales, right? So do you still come up against pushback to that, and people go, oh, not me, I just answer the phones, or I just book the appointments?
They're usually the best success stories because I think genuine transformation happens when there's resistance front end. If you're coming in going, all right, I'm a sales guy, I've been doing this for so long, what can you teach me, pasty little English fella? they want some results, but their expectations are so high. And I still back ourselves to be able to meet those expectations. But when you've got somebody that's been in sales for maybe 30, 40 years, or they're in a totally different department and they're at the back of the room, like, don't know why I've been dragged into this, I'm not in sales. And then you just gradually watch them change throughout the course of the session, and they go, oh, yeah, I guess I could learn to speak my partner's language a little bit better. Maybe I could soften my tone during that argument that I had, or when a customer was asking me for a refund and they're not going to the sales guy. Maybe I could have dealt with that a little bit better. That's the real transformation. They just struggle with the acknowledgement that I'm in sales. But that's why I often say, like, if you remove the word sales and just put communication, you can kind of switch their thinking a little bit.
That's quite a disparity from coaching a receptionist, no disrespect to them in terms of sales and communication training, to a potential CEO of organizations I know that you've worked with that turn over hundreds of millions, if not billions, every single year. How does one person or one course teach both of those people at the same time?
I think it's because we don't focus on selling, which is random. We focus on human connection. So this isn't about selling a product. This is about maximizing every single human interaction that you have. Like, I walk in this office, your team are amazing. The culture here is amazing. Everybody's looking at you. Like, every single person looked up and acknowledged me when I walked in the room. What is my feeling then about this company? This company's great. They don't need to do that. I don't know if you told them to nod and smile as I walk in and wave. Ryan's coming.
Yeah, we're
prepping. Role playing this morning. But like that impacts my experience walking in. And the CEO plays a part in that experience. The CEO might have to communicate or articulate a message to the public. They could be public facing, they could be a listed company. But then the receptionist might be sitting on the front desk and they deal with the walk-ins. They might deal with suppliers or tradespeople that walk in, and every single person is going to get a feeling of what that company is like. And I might get a good feeling, I might get a bad feeling, I might get an indifferent feeling, but I'm getting a feeling of some sort. So yeah, we all play a part.
Well, see, we know very well you went to Necker Island, spent a bit of time with Richard Branson for 5 days. What were the 3 massive takeaways you took from there, or what was the 3 kind of eye-opening moments where you left and thought, wow, I'm never going to be the same again?
That's interesting. I don't know if I ever had that moment where I said, I'm never going to be the same again, but I do often say it was life-changing. So trying to pinpoint why it was life-changing is hard. I think seeing so many people that have been uber successful, and I'm talking like exiting for hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars together, and seeing how just normal they were. There's something quite liberating about that it gives you a level of inspiration. Not to go, if he can do it or she can do it, I can do it. It's just that they're normal people that have done extraordinary things. But if you break it all the way down, we're all capable of doing those extraordinary things. They come down to just daily fundamentals and non-negotiables, and having a really clear pathway of how we're going to get there. So I think that seeing that they're all normal and they've all made the same mistakes, regardless of the industry or sector, they've all made the same mistakes. They've hired the wrong people. They've kept people on for too long. They've overspent. They've underspent. They've missed opportunities. Some of them had really poor sales processes, in my opinion. And they were able to sell for hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, well. And it was terrible. And then I'm talking to them about infrastructure to build out a sales process, and they don't, we never had any of that. And I'm like, who offered you 250 million? No wonder you ran with it. So they haven't all figured it out. So I think one of the lessons was, I don't need to figure all this out. What they had done, and it's a bit cliche, is they'd figured out who has figured it out, and they would align themselves with the right people. They were all, here's a great consistent theme, is that they all were great at speaking to other humans. They had an ability to sell their ideas to someone at some stage. I often say that you don't actually need to, you don't need money to grow a business. You just need somebody else's money to grow a business. But how do you get someone else's money? You put together a business plan, or you don't have a business plan, but you just have a really great way to articulate what that business looks like to another human being. There's plenty of people out there that will give you some money if you've got a good business idea. But most people fall short of being able to articulate it. So I love challenging people when they say, I haven't started something, or I'm not doing something. And they go, I just haven't got time. And they go, I haven't got the money. I go, okay, cool. So what's the idea? And then they'll give me something fluffy. I'll go, oh, that's great. I love that. So how much do you reckon you need? 100 grand. I won't be able to save 100 grand for years. I'm like, brilliant. I'll give you the 100 grand. What do you do next? And they just don't know what to do. They don't know what the next step is. So money was not the problem. So I've solved that. So then it becomes a skill or a knowledge issue. And then if they do know what to do next, I'm like, okay, so I've just told you I'm going to give you the money. Are we going to run with it? And then they go, oh no. And it's a fear issue. So we just put roadblocks in our way, and all those people on Necker Island did not. They just were like, we're going for it. We're backing ourselves. And they're prepared to lose it all as well. Totally prepared to lose absolutely everything. I think that's, if I was going to pinpoint why it was life-changing, it was walking away going, I'm prepared to lose everything, knowing that I can start again. That was probably the life-changing part, which is quite scary for most. And now I'm really comfortable. Like, I'm going through a separation. I don't mind talking about it. And I'm like, okay, well, because of the way that separations work in Australia and probably all around the world, my wife's going to get what she's entitled to. My ex-wife's going to get what she's entitled to. That might mean I need to start again from a financial standpoint. That's cool. I've got a skill that will allow me to go back to wherever I want to go again. And that's so liberating. Otherwise, what do you do? Just wallow and cry. Like, do that a little bit.
That's it. Mate, one thing I'm keen to dig into, like, I know me and Ads, we have by far from what we call making it within our business, Harwell Consulting. But one thing we are obsessed about is constantly getting better in different areas, whether it's something we're really good at, like we think we're pretty decent at sales and communication now, or whether it's finance literacy. We're just always trying to level up. You spent 5 days with some incredible people who arguably were at the pinnacle of what they do and exited for hundreds of millions of dollars. You've touched on it already, but it sounds like there was still a lot of improvement for them in the sales and communication world.
Yeah, they're just relentless. Like they know they're never finished. There didn't seem to be like an end goal, and I think that's important. It's just a journey that we're on. There is no end point. We're never finished. They're all so humble in their learnings. I don't know if I said this to you guys on the last podcast. One of the interesting takeaways was that not one person ever asked me any vanity metrics. Did we talk about that?
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Didn't ask me what money we were making, what's your turnover. Didn't ask me about headcount within the organization. Nobody cared about that stuff, which meant we got a lot deeper, a lot quicker into like real human conversations. But I had a lot of imposter syndrome going on that island. I didn't feel like I deserved to be there. And I know that's quite a common feeling amongst people. And what I realized was they all had imposter syndrome, every single one of them on there. And I struggled to understand how I could add value to them. These guys are genuinely worth hundreds of millions, if not billions. And I'm a little sales trainer on the Gold Coast, just giving it a crack for the last 10 years. And we do all right. We do okay. But compared to that, we're not at their level, whatever their level was. But what I realized very quickly was I was the only person on that island that could help every single other person on that island.
Yeah, well.
Why? Because I was the one that could help them articulate their message better. And once I realized that, I'm like, my island. But we talk about our elevator pitch and being able to communicate your message really quickly. We have what we call it your you know how statement. So you know how certain people struggle with XYZ. Well, we help them with that with XYZ. What I realized was every time they said to me, what do I do? All I had to say was, well, it's funny. I actually help amazing entrepreneurs and genius minds just like you articulate the value of their business so that they can either raise more funds or exit for a really decent amount. Oh, I need your services. I'm like, I know. And they all knew it as well.
Yeah.
Nobody at that level seems like there's a bravado or I'm finished from an education standpoint. They all knew that they could improve those skills. And now I work with a lot of them.
Oh, that's my next question. Yeah, did you manage to get a lot of clients? Some of the truth. Yeah, so it paid off. 5 days
Look
with
at
the
the
sun.
smile on his face.
And not even just the clients, but just the connection. I like hanging around with them. I want to have one of the French ladies, Aloha. She's like 27 years old, I think, at the time. She's created the first hydrogen-fueled passenger plane. It's not going to be available for another 10 years, and she's sold 96 or pre-sold 96 of them already. Like, I'm talking hundreds of millions of dollars. She's raised hundreds of millions of dollars, and she's like, I need sales training. I'm like, you are amazing. But I get to hear those types of conversations, and she's selling them to politicians and celebrities and singers and performers. I'm like, I want to be in that world. because that means I have to level up again, which is cool.
You mentioned that obviously you felt huge imposter syndrome going onto that island. One, how did you deal with that? And two, was there ever a point where you were like, I'm actually not going to do it?
Oh yeah, there was a point where, as soon as I got the offer, I remember it was Melbourne Cup morning. Me and the team were in the office and we were getting ready to go for Melbourne Cup, and I got the email come through. And the second it came through, my like stomach just went, I felt sick. I'm like, I can't go. And I started to look at my calendar. I started to I didn't tell anybody this. I started to make up appointments as to why I won't be able to get out of that appointment. I've got a podcast on that day. I can't come and do that.
You can't cancel this.
I wouldn't have cancelled this, honestly. So instantly that kicked in. And then how did I get over it? Nam.
Really?
I had a session with Nam.
Nam was on last week.
Yeah. So did you have him on here?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I had a session with him, about 2-hour session. And he said something to me, and it wasn't really delivered as advice. It was just delivered as a statement, and it's really stuck with me. He said, he said, how long are you there for? I said, 5 days. He said, do not spend the first 4 days figuring out that you belong there. Because you're going to enjoy 1 day of 5. And because I'm such a planner and I like to be organized and I wanted to maximize every human interaction, I was practicing my pitch and what am I going to say? And these guys are doing all these wonderful things. And he just kind of gave me the freedom to just lower my expectations of myself. And he called it riffing. I'm not a musician, but apparently
plays the drums.
That's the thing. You know. Yeah. So he's like, you can plan 70 to 80% of it. I've got I'll share the video that he made for me. It's like a 5-minute video. It's great. He said, plan 70 to 80% of the time on the island. What time you're going to get up? Where you're going to go? What are you going to talk about? If you get a chance to go on a microphone, what question you're going to ask? Like, plan all of that so you feel at least in control, because that's where I lose imposter syndrome, when I feel in control. But you still got to give yourself 20% to riff. And that means if somebody's going to throw a curly question at you, you don't know the answer to it. And if they do, it's cool. Like, you don't need to know all the answers. Somebody's going to say, hey, do you want to stay out and have another drink tonight? And you're like, oh, I want to get up and have breakfast with Richard at 5. Are you going to allow yourself to have that drink? Because that could be the one conversation that changes your life. Anyway, long story short, I ended up until 4 a.m. every night. Just
Straight to breakfast.
Straight to breakfast. Yeah, and that's Nam's fault.
Yeah. Well, was it as IBF you went to, or was it later on?
I can't say too much more about that. No, everyone was in bed by 7.
Yeah.
Listening to you tell that story, it kind of almost feels like you went back to the start of where I felt when I started your training, of obsessing over every single sale and building up every single situation. And I feel like your training has taken us along that journey of now we just talk to people.
Yeah.
We don't have all the answers. We're not perfect. We're quite honest. If we can help you, we will. If there's someone better, we'll put you in touch with them. I feel like you kind of went on that little journey when you were planning to go on the island.
Yeah, it definitely is. That's why I'm not a fan of scripting. I'm a fan of frameworks. So like, we can give you a framework to sit within, and although you're just having a chat, I bet we could see where you are on the negotiation ladder. And we know, okay, you've gone past, present, future with your questions. There would be a sequence there, albeit we're not rehearsing every single word within that sequence. It was the same. I was an engineer. I still fight that. I'm not an engineer. I should stop saying that. I'm not an engineer anymore. I've not been an engineer for 15 years, but the principles are still the same, where everything needs to be perfect. Like if I run a podcast, you guys are pretty relaxed, but like if you moved on your microphone, I'd be getting anxious while I'm interviewing. You're like, oh, the audio has probably just changed a little bit. I've had to let all that go. So now I have 20-30% of my life riffing, thanks to them.
I love that. You talked about the 10-step negotiation ladder, which is your baby, your beauty.
First baby, yeah.
For someone who maybe doesn't know what SWISH is, essentially, what the 10-step negotiation ladder is, what would be the most important step?
Step 1.
Yeah. So at the start.
Preparation. And that's, again, it's a life principle, isn't it? So when people come into our training, they expect us to do objection handling, building rapport, following up, all that. We do, obviously, but there's much more to it. So you could take stage 1 of a 10-step ladder called preparation and plug that into any area of your life. Like you guys would have prepped for this podcast, no doubt. There'll be certain things, certain buttons that you need to press. There's audio that you need to check before we do this for things to go right. So if that falls apart, everything else falls apart. And from a sales and communication perspective, people don't prep. They just, I just wing it. I'm just myself. I'm like, well, what if the yourself you are right now isn't the best version of yourself. Because we do hit that roadblock a lot. I don't want to become someone I'm not. Well, what if you become someone that you are and there's a better version of you? I love Vin Zhang. Do you know Vin?
No, I don't.
Based out in Adelaide. He's a public speaking coach. And the way he talks about your voice being an instrument, and the more you learn to play an instrument, the better it sounds. And this is my tool. This is my skill. I can take this anywhere in the world with me. So why wouldn't I practice it? Why wouldn't I tune it? Why wouldn't I learn about tonality and pace and pauses and intentional stutters at the right time? All of that stuff can be practiced in preparation. So I think prep's the most important stage of the negotiation ladder. Stage 4 is the most important with regards to making a sale, which is discovery.
You were hoping he said that, weren't you?
Well, that's what I prepare for.
We did do some prep.
I was thinking, oh shit, throw out the script.
I can see the notes you've got.
And Pally goes, I want to dig into discovery. So
We can do that.
let's go there, mate.
Yeah, because the thing it is.
Do you want to do preparation now?
No. Oh, yeah, we'll skip that one. We'll cut that one out, Con. So discovery, this bit I enjoyed the most of the training, right? Because it completely blew my mind. I thought discovery was asking 1,000 questions and just trying to paint this picture of who this person is or what they might need. But there's such a clean way to ask the questions: past, present, future, cost of an action, opportunity, partnership.
Yeah.
The one that has the most impact, obviously, is probably the previous one, I find. So what have you done previously? Take me back is always a way to start it.
Yeah.
What impact does that have in terms of the brain when you go, okay, take me back, rather than how can I help you today, sir?
I think it does one of two things. So firstly, we believe in what we call the 300% rule of value, which you guys would know till the cows come home. So MCP, myself, company, product. And we are always building or reducing value in myself, the company or product, with every single word that leaves our mouth. So by virtue of me focusing on what they've done previously before I focus on what they want, it shows that I actually care deeper than just talking about product. So it actually unconsciously builds value in you. So the M, myself. So when I say, so take me back for a second. Have you been following us for a few years now or just heard of us recently? That shows that I'm interested in their whole journey, and it also builds value in me at the same time. And what it enables us to do is take them back to a point in the past, and then I'm going to go to a point in the future, and it creates a gap. Everyone knows gap selling, like it works. Psychologists use it. Therapists use it. It's designed. They call it motivational interviewing. The bigger the gap, the faster the action that we need to take. So I want to go there. Whereas most people go, so what are you looking for? Perfect. We can give you that. I've got that. I've got those services, and I'm just in the future, which doesn't allow me to appreciate what sort of problems I might have that I haven't even considered just yet. And a lot of people, this is a really important thing to be aware of from a sales perspective. A lot of people know what they want, they don't know what they need. And I believe we have a duty of care and a responsibility to give people what they need, not what they want. And there's an art to making sure that they don't tell you what they want. And if they do tell you what they want, then we remove the argument of, well, I just want this. I don't want what you're trying to sell to me. And we do that right up front through what we call rapport threading on the front end, which I can go through as well if you want.
One question before we do that. So we just spoke about so many salespeople start at the end goal, and it doesn't give you as the client an opportunity to actually reflect on what you've done and where we need to get to. How can starting at the end goal also impact the salesperson from your process?
I think there's a danger, right? If I just say to you, so mate, what are you looking for ideally moving forward, blah blah blah, all those cheesy old school 80s questions, and you go, I want this, I want this, I want this, and I go, okay, perfect. Well, look, you're probably not aware, but we do that, and I use patronizing or condescending statements because I have nothing to reflect it against. So by virtue of me going backwards first, I understand how experienced you are, and the second that I patronize you once, all of a sudden you're going to start to close up. I see it all the time on sales calls where people go, well, look, you should be aware right now, the market's really shifted, especially in this particular sector. And you're talking to somebody that's been in the industry for 22 years and you didn't ask them how long they've been in the industry for. So now you're a 23-year-old telling somebody that's got twice the experience as you about a market that they are more of an expert on. That's a surefire way to close them down. So it'll just make you look like a bit of a dick, to be honest.
Yeah, I love
That's
it.
a promo.
And and I look back and genuinely, I've done that so many times. We came from an environment where it was very much, here's the result you need, get to the outcome, get there as quick as possible. And it wasn't always following a process, the right process. It wasn't even doing necessarily what the right thing for you was.
Yeah.
And I just dread to think how many bad experiences we perhaps gave early on that we then had to fight back against.
It is, because then you're in this battle. I had a guy on LinkedIn a couple of months ago message me saying, do you appreciate a good sales process? We believe we can improve your sales process. I'm like, all you had to do was click on my bio. Like the intel was there. He didn't even need to ask a past question. Just my back's up now. It's like when you ask people, what do you think you could do to improve with XYZ on something that I've made a decision on before? So if you're selling me IT managed services and you said, Ryan, what would you change about your current provider? I made that decision to choose that current provider.
Yeah,
so
it's insulting. Yeah.
It's insulting me. So I'm going to go, no, they're actually great. I'm going to defend the decision that I made 3 years ago to use those people, as opposed to saying, so when you chose those, what was it about them that you liked? And then they go, oh, well, I love this, I love that. However, because we have a negative bias as a human, I'll always come back to the negative. But if you start with a negative, I'll turn it into a positive. That's just the way that humans work. So if you stop studying sales, start studying people, it becomes quite predictable.
Yeah. It's taken me back to when we were on Sasha's podcast a few weeks ago, Sasha Caraba, Econ Capital, you know him. And he said, how do I spot a bad recruiter? He says, because I always have recruiters coming to me going, I can find you the perfect candidate. I know exactly what you need. I'm like, well, you've just spotted them.
Yeah.
I was like, how do they know that they've got the perfect candidate for you? They don't know you. They don't know your business. They don't know what you're looking for. I was like, that's the first test. They failed.
Yeah, they're just talking at you. And that's where, so one of our SWISH principles is that our language must go from neutral to absolute. So in the absence of intelligence, we have to stay neutral. And what I mean by that is, we use neutral language such as maybe, potentially, hopefully. It would be nice to. I would love to if I can. But I don't categorically know because I haven't gone over what I call my intelligence bridge, which means I've gone past, present, future. So the more intelligence I gather, the more absolute I can become. So from a recruitment perspective, you probably know with some of the people you speak to, based on experience, that you can categorically help them. You probably, before you even pick up the phone, you see the ad and you're like, I know I've got the perfect candidate for that company. But you can't come in telling me that, because then human nature says you're going to raise my sales defenses. So we use a lot of play down statements. Like, at this point, you're probably going to tell me you've got the perfect recruitment process. You're probably going to tell me right now that you never want to use recruiters. Well, bring the elephant in the room. And it works exceptionally well because it's a diffuser. And as soon as you can diffuse, it changes their state. And then they actually start to hear the value that you're saying with the next part of whatever you're about to say.
So self-development for us is as massive as Harv said. Swish was a huge part of that. Starting out at Harwell, I remember signing up for the boot camp. You said, so boys, what's your sales process? And we said,
do you remember what we said?
Call a client, get a job on, find a candidate, fucking job done. There's your money. And he goes, yeah, but what's your process? And we didn't have one. So we really went from scratch, which is a blessing in disguise because there was nothing to change. We really just built it together and mapped it from a bit of a blank canvas.
And by the way, I knew you didn't have a sales process.
We know that you do.
But I go past first, yeah?
So that was really powerful for us. And outside of that, we do recruitment training, we do bits and pieces. But what was the training that you've done to get to this level now to be able to teach people like us and all the other people around the globe that you have taught?
Oh, Jesus. All the way back in the beginning, Tom Hopkins, Brian Tracy, Zig Ziglar, Ron Willingham, dare I say Jordan Belford. To be fair, Jordan, he's a scumbag, but it worked. It was the first program that I looked at and researched that made me realize that sales is a process. I mean, obviously he used it for the wrong reasons, and if it didn't work, he wouldn't have gone to jail. It works. So seeing that there was an order, that was when my brain went, engineering brain clicked in and said, okay, so there is a sequence here and we don't need to use it for the wrong reasons. Michael Oliver, who Jeremy Miner, who's a big, worked with Michael Oliver as well, going through his natural selling. I'd say a lot of our content is derived from that framework and that structure, very consultative, sequential questioning as well. But then Harry Singer, public speaking, being able to take this from just training like one person at a time to, and with respect, training like a frontline sales rep one-on-one for $50 an hour 9-10 years ago in my small office, and just teaching the same thing to every single one of them. Cold calling intro, because I've done 330,000 cold calls. I'm like, this is my niche. And then Harry's gone, you can give that message to many. This is many years later. So the public speaking training, so good. More recently, what's his name? Mark Bowden, part of the behavior panel. Do you guys watch the behavior panel?
No.
You'd love that podcast. Four guys. They basically study people that are on trial in America, and they just tell you if they're lying for their body language or not. It was brilliant. So Mark, I'm actually going to release his podcast shortly that I had with him. The like what we do with our body, literally, like you're on a Zoom and you're a floating head versus showing your torso up, and the difference in what that makes from a trust perspective. He talks about the truth plane, sorry, like having your arms there, not so trustworthy, down there, not so trustworthy, but there's a truth plane at midriff level with open palms. Just subtle things like that, looking away at the end of a sentence that suggests that maybe you're lying. Okay. So making sure that your tone doesn't drop and your eye contact stays right to the last word of your sentence says, I'm telling the truth. They're so many little things.
There's so many levels to it. And like, we still doing so much learning now, and you add bits, but I think there's so much power in just doing the same reps over and over again. Obviously reps that aren't working, don't keep doing those over and over again. But like with your training, we turn up, we've done 3 boot camps, we've done the immersion, like we've done countless live Zoom calls, and it begins to roll off the tongue, and you implement it in your day job and even at home, like just naturally, just from doing the reps. There's so much power in doing that.
We always say the genius is in the repetition. There's the most insulting thing people can say to me is it does just roll off your tongue now. I'm like, 330,000 cold calls later, it rolls off my tongue. But if I was to go out there and cold call right now, I haven't cold called for years, I'd be rusty as hell. I'd probably still be better than most, but I'd still be rusty because I haven't practiced cold calling myself. Like I'm practicing maybe my delivery from stage or when I'm on a podcast. This is a sale right now. Every single word that leaves my mouth lends value to myself, company, or product. It doesn't mean I'm scripted. I'm not reading anything, but there's frames that I speak within. There's tones that I deliver it in. So maybe I practice this thing. There's maybe speaking to a team and becoming a better leader. We got 17 coaches at Swish across public speaking, leadership, scaling up, stress management, Jess Cameron doing mindset stuff, NLP. There's so much that you could do. But if you do it once and let it go, it's not gonna stick. So building into the fabric of what you do into your life, repetition and role play it's just a non-negotiable. It just has to be there.
I know we're jumping around a bit and it's probably our fault more than yours, but we want to give people as many actionable takeaways as possible. Can we go back to rapport threading? Because that's been a game changer for us.
Yeah, I just did it all. Did they not pick that up? I think I coined this phrase. I think I made this up. So one of my greatest skills, I believe, as a sales professional is to remove objections before they arise. And that wasn't because I was a good salesperson. It's because I hated confrontation so much. I just don't like arguing with people. That's on a football pitch, of which I was a great footballer, remember?
Remember when Ads roasted you on the last one?
Me. Is that why we had to do it again?
Minute 3, he just starts hammering you about it. Like
I heard it got removed from Spotify.
That was the old man way nicer.
So I don't like friction. I don't like confrontation. I don't like it in my business. I don't want to argue with my team. I don't want to argue with clients. So what I tried to do was just bring into the conversation any level of friction that could happen. I wanted to bring it to the table first. So what I started to think about was, what are the absolute fundamentals that my customer need to know throughout this conversation that would remove a potential objection further down the line? So for us, really easy example, we won't do online training. It doesn't work for us. Right? We're an in-person company. We're a little bit old school like that. So what I would do is take that, I would create a sentence that was real and backed by data. So I'd go to our existing clients, see how many of them had said that to us initially, and I'd come back with the data to back up the statement I'm about to give. So I'm in my discovery stage 4 of the negotiation ladder, and I will take a stab in the dark and say 80% of the corporate companies that we coach don't want virtual training, right? They want in person. So I play the data. So I'm going to go, Adam, it's interesting. I want to ask you a little bit about your previous training experience. Before I do that, and then I'm about to use what I call a rapport thread. So before I do that, we've been fortunate enough now to coach 21,500 businesses and individuals globally. So that's what we call a value builder or a value bomb. And what I found fascinating is the amount of companies that we've had in that time that would say, oh, I only want in-person training. Virtual training doesn't work for us. And then they incur travel costs and expenses and all of this jazz. The reason I share that with you, and that's the connector that you need. The reason I share that with you is I want to understand, what sort of training have you done with your company in the past? Has it been the traditional in-person stuff, which we know hypes them up for a couple of days, but doesn't really get long-term results? Or have you all found a way now to use modern methods to get consistent training so you can get long-term results? And they go, oh, no, we've been a bit old school, I guess, in a way. And yeah, you're right. It does kind of hype them up. So what do you do then with the online stuff to kind of make sure that the information sticks? And now it's not coming as an objection further down the line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I thread it before a question. So my sequence of questions is question, answer, value builder, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, value builder, question, answer. So I'm never more than 2 questions away from a value builder on myself, the company, or the product. And I say it before the question, but it has to make sense. Can't just go, I was an engineer. How big was your team? Like it has to make sense.
Yeah.
So I could say it's fascinating. I moved over here in 2010 as an engineer. I've been a mechanical engineer for 8 years. So very process driven, very methodical. So everything we design here is designed for efficiency, resourcefulness, and scale. And the reason I asked that question is I'd love to know, like, are you the person that's been in charge of building out your processes in the organization? I find systems and oh no, I wouldn't do that. That would be so and so. I'm like, okay, cool. I've got another decision maker now. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So how can I add value, remove an objection or potential friction point before I actually ask the discovery question?
I love that. Even as small as the rapport threads being, I do one Friday, it's talking about, it's my business, it's my name on the door. If I don't generate money for my clients, I can't pay my mortgage, I can't feed my dog, Murphy. Oh, what dog have you got? Oh, there's a Labrador, straight away. And then that's another.
So we get resistance on this, by the way, especially that personal myself, because there's building value in myself, as in I've been in this industry for a decade. I've worked with X number of people. And then there's, I've got a dog and I've got these kids, and people go, no one cares. And you're right. Like, no one cares about my dog. No one cares about my kids. No one cares about my divorce. No one cares about any of that, but they need to know. And that's the difference, is that even the most staunch D-personality type, they will change their perception of you with one statement delivered correctly. So I had somebody on Friday that was kind of coming in over the top of me, and a lot of credibility. He's running a $16-17 million a year business, been doing it for 23 years. Let's just say he had a statement that was very authoritarian and almost a bit condescending to me. And I'm like, do you know how refreshing it is to hear that? I remember one of our investors, Steve Baxter, said to me once, and then I just deliver a statement that comes, like, it's subtle, but he's like, oh, so what do you mean? Steve from Shark Tank? I'm like, yeah. He goes, oh, so when did you guys go on that? A whole, like, shifted completely. Is that right? No. Like, should we respect everybody equal? But it's not the way the world works, unfortunately. Like, we've all looked at somebody and made a judgment or formed an opinion unconsciously of someone, and then somebody says to you, oh, that's so-and-so that does X, Y, Z. You're like, what? They do what? That's amazing. And you unconsciously change your perception of them. There's more value in them. So all I'm doing is telling my truth better. And that's what selling is for me.
When we go back to those rapport threads and the value builders, like if I'm now sat at home listening to this and I'm never done any sales training before and my brain's ticking, I'm thinking, okay, there's some value builders about myself. Have you seen anybody consistently use them horribly wrong, especially when they're just starting out in this game, for people to look out for?
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the show. Now, while I got your attention, apart from being professional podcasters, we also run a recruitment agency called Rapport Consulting.
Yeah, we're super lucky that we get to partner with some of Australia's most well-known brands and biggest organisations. So if you're keen to hear a little bit more about how we add value to their teams and businesses with the right people, we'll put the links in the show notes, or you can check us out at www.harwellconsulting.com.au. Now enjoy the rest of the show.
It doesn't, I can't think of anyone in particular, but I dare say it happens. So The mistake I see with value builders is that they stack them. So what I mean by that is they do all of their value builders at the end, or they do all of their value build, at the start, or they do them all at the end. So they go, hey guys, or hey, nice to meet you. Just so you know, my name is so-and-so. I've been doing this for X amount of years. I've got this amount of experience, and in my spare time, I love to play golf, right? And then they go, so tell me, what made you pop your details in? Then they get into the sales call, right? And then they go all the way through. It's question, answer, question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. Then they ask for the business. The person has forgot about all this credibility that they built at the start. All right. So by the time they get there, they're not gonna go over the line. The alternative is they focus purely on the customer at the start, which actually I would prefer this way. So it's the focus is all on the end user, but there's no value throughout. And the danger there is that people won't open up to you. And the reason they don't open up to you, I believe, is two reasons. Firstly, you got to give something to take something. So if you've got somebody where it's like trying to get brick from blood from a stone, I always say, are you opening up to them first for them to open up to you? And the second thing is, I don't want to patronize you as the customer. So if I know you've been doing this for 20 years, I'm probably going to give you more intelligence than if I'm speaking to a frontline person that's been doing this for 5 weeks. In the absence of information, I will default to negative. I will assume you don't know as much as I think as you do. So they will withhold with information which you need to leverage to then get your sale on the back end. So they go, no question, no value builders, no value builders, value builders. And then at the end they go, well, just let me tell you a little bit about me and my company. It's too late. You've just missed. You can't now backdate all of those questions. So that's why we have to thread them in all the way throughout. So the biggest mistake is I see that they stack them either at the start or the finish. They should be no more than 2 to 3 questions away from a value builder at all times.
I love this stuff. Hey, like sitting down with you now, I feel that same excitement as I did when we first kind of started getting into it as well. And it's just so simple. It's so common sense, you know, like why would you just sit there and Q&A your client without telling them, you know, about yourself or about your company or about your product? Like it's so obvious. And I think you get so caught up in the day-to-day of your business, of your job, of the sale, you just end up starting barking at people, don't you? And I think it then takes, talking about the gap in the gain, it takes that dry spell in sales to then make you go, shit, okay, I need to go and do the training. Rather than just being able to be so self-aware to go, actually, nah, this is the daily kind of steps and rituals to take, and then you never get to that tough part.
Well, I think it comes down to your intent again, right? If you're going into every interaction trying to make a sale, you're going to try to get there as quickly as possible because that's where we're wired as humans. We're not wired to go down the hard route. So I actually do. I agree with you. I think it's actually quite simple, but for some people it's hard. And the reason it's hard is, firstly, they haven't done it like this before. They've just been told to throw features and benefits at somebody, and hopefully they go, "Oh, that's great. That's exactly what I need." But that's not how humans work, and it's definitely not how we work in 2025. There's been real advancements in consumer behaviors in recent years, so we need to adapt the way that we promote and discuss. And if you were sitting with your mate just having a chat, you wouldn't just be grilling them. That's not how life works. And so it's just about humanizing the interaction. And that's why I'll keep coming back to it. Stop trying to sell to people. Stop studying sales. Study humans. Like even if like nobody comes to us, never does any of our training, just go and read about human psychology, behavioral science, and why people make decisions. You two have got the exact same product backed by the same company. Why would I choose ours over ads? And why? That's what I became fascinated with. How did you come to that conclusion? What was it that you did and you didn't? Or maybe you just did it 1% better. How can I harness that and give that to everybody? Even in a dating sense, why did he or she choose her or him? What was it that person did differently? It doesn't make sense. It does when you study people. Don't know.
My brain's going a million. I went there.
Yeah, I can see it. I love the way that along the journey you've opened up and you're not just speaking to salespeople. You know, you've been adding value to C-suite executives. And I personally, as my day job, I speak with hundreds of CFOs, and these are CFOs of some of Australia's leading companies.
Yeah.
And often those CFOs will be putting together board reporting packs, and once a month they'll have to present to the board. That might be a company that's just owned by 1 or 2 people. It might be an entire board. It might be private equity investors. We don't know. How could a CFO within my network use this training to impact them in that situation?
The principles are the same. The MCP principles are the same. Like making sure that first intro builds value in them as a person, so that the information they're sharing comes across as credible. I imagine in this situation, some of the information they're sharing is not what the shareholders want to hear or other people in the room want to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a way that we deliver that, and that means that I have to be seen as human, and I have to be seen as doing my due diligence before I give this information. Like, so if there's a room of people that know them, I'm a big fan of disclaimer statements, such as, look, as you guys know, I've been doing this for 22 years now. If there's one thing that, and then we use a vulnerability statement. If there's one thing that I've learned in the last 22 years in this industry is that, and then I deliver a bit of bad news or something negative. So that's called persuasion. So persuasion is the words I use before the words I use. So these words here can drastically impact these next words if I set them up correctly. Or I could say, hey guys, so yeah, unfortunately not good news to share with you today. Right? All of a sudden, the way the next bit of information is received is totally different. Saying, guys, as you know, I've been doing this for 22 years. And if there's one thing that I've learned in that 22 years is that, unfortunately, sometimes this is not going to be the most enjoyable conversation that we're going to have. Like, it changes the state of the people in the room, which means they'll give me maybe they'll give me a bit more leeway with the information that I'm sharing, or alternatively, I'll just get more focused attention, which is really important. So I always come back to all behaviors are state dependent. So thinking about what if I say that word there, is that what state would that put the person in front of me in? Like, because we all want to sometimes just fly off the handle and lay into people, but maybe I need to say one word before that or one statement before that. And I like to do it as a value builder. So I'm a big fan of the vulnerability statements. Like, one thing I wasn't aware of when I first got into this industry is XYZ until I realized XYZ. The reason I'm sharing that with you right now is I noticed last week you kind of fell into the same trap that I did 11 years ago. Instead of saying, you just fucked that up, which is what some of us want to say.
Yeah, I love it. And I love the mentality of that everyone's in sales. Because sometimes I call those CFOs and they don't want to borrow with me because I'm a salesperson, or just another recruiter to them. And I feel like saying, you're in sales too, because you've got to win over those stakeholders, no different that I've got to try and win over you.
And they do. And I won't tell you his name out of respect, but you'll get very close to figuring out what I'm talking about. So I coach one of our investors right now. I've done some one-on-one training with him, and he's looking to raise funds for his fund from some of the richest people in the world right now. And I'm training him on exactly that. Now, this guy has sold businesses for hundreds of millions of dollars, got multiple businesses in his portfolio, very, very successful. He's still having the same conversations. He's still having exactly the same conversation with another human being. His job is to get in front of them, prepare, make a winning first impression, frame the conversation, thread value builders, ask the right questions so he doesn't patronize them in the right order, figure out the cost of them not investing into the fund, and then articulate his actual proposition on the back end. It's the same, like whether it be in recruitment or IT or insurance or solar. Humans, yes, we've adapted from a consumer behavior perspective, but we're all quite predictable at the same time. And most of us, inadvertently, we sound more salesy because we haven't had training. And you know when someone hasn't had training because they use words like budget or contract, and there's so much data on it. Like, it says if you use the word budget, you reduce your chance of making a sale by over 30%. If you'd had training, you'd know that. So stop using that word. So you're like, oh, I don't want training. I don't want to be seen as salesy. By virtue of not training, you sound salesy. And I'm just being myself. I'm like, here we go again. Don't do that. Yourself isn't good enough.
So my world's revolved around construction. I'm just sat here thinking while you're kind of talking away to CFOs, I'm picturing boardrooms. What about the guy who's been on site since 6 a.m., it's 2 in the arvo, someone's just fucked up a pour, shit's going wrong. People like that could use this level of training and sales and communication in particular.
Conflict resolution.
Imagine the impact that could have.
Yeah. Conflict. Well, as you know, we do conflict resolution because it's the same principles as well. So give me that scenario exactly. So they've
been on site since 6 a.m.
Site supervisor.
Yeah, it's 35 degrees. It's 2 o'clock, the last pour of the day. And
that's not in England then.
Yeah, well, that's definitely here. And the concrete has fucked it up.
Yeah.
They're going to be there for hours fixing a mess.
Give me an example of what normally happens in your experience in that situation. I think I know.
You'd absolutely tear a new one, I'm sure.
Yeah.
which wouldn't help anyone.
Yeah.
Right. And the concrete's still wrong at the end of the day.
And disclaimer, those concreters that fucked up weren't provided by Hire. They must have been one of the other guys.
Get a better recruiter. Like in that scenario, the principles are always the same. Firstly, I think we have to acknowledge as leaders and business owners, no one I like to think is intentionally trying to fuck up. Like in my workplace, in yours, like my team make mistakes. I make mistakes. I don't think anybody's actually doing it to like screw your job over, or some people would argue otherwise. But I like to think that in general, we're all trying our best with the resources that we have. So I think taking that moment initially just to kind of channel that feeling in amongst the chaos, and it's a different conversation because we're talking about regulation now. We're talking about the human stress response, and being able to regulate and take yourself out of the situation and go, right, I need to find myself 6 seconds to lower my levels of cortisol so that I can actually respond logically and rationally, not emotionally and erratically. So whether we start doing some breath work or some training around that, not in that moment, but they have just a really quick, simple 6 second consideration. Like I do, if my team mess up or if something goes wrong, I need to have an ability to let that wash over me really quickly. Otherwise, what I'm about to say next won't come out right. So I think that's the first part. And then putting the onus on the other person, asking them directly, look, mate, I've been doing this now for, I don't know, 14, 15 years. We've both been on site since 6:30 in the morning. Like making that situation a community-based situation. I've been doing this 14, 15 years. You've been in the game a long time. It's 35 degrees, mate. We're knackered. Like, I know you didn't do that on purpose. You want to talk about what happened? Like, and they, how they respond doesn't matter. But there's power in regulation and knowing that I was still in control of that situation. I've had, my old boss used to throw stuff at me in England. Like, I mean, did I get the work done after? Yeah, I still worked, but ultimately I left in the end. And I think if we recognize as leaders, we'll lose talent eventually.
I think in construction as a whole, it's very male dominated, and men's mental health is really big topic at the moment. There's a lot of sad events going on, particularly around the Gold Coast, which probably ties into that as well. Not being able to vent your frustrations in the right way, which then builds tension, builds resentment on site, builds pressure. So the next day they come in, they don't want to be there. Maybe if life's a bit shit at home with the missus and the kids, that definitely plays a part. So maybe that's some education rather than just how to pick up a hammer and bang a nail. Maybe it's the mental side of, yes, the workplace in general, but in construction and how to handle that.
Well, we've got the the evocative guys, Jerry and Blake. They're actually in our office space at the minute. They're still leasing one of the rooms out. So they're talking to people that are predominantly in the mines, and they tell me some real shocking stats that are coming out of that. So it's all preventative. From a leadership perspective, one thing that I like to do when I bring somebody on board is ask them how they'd like to be communicated with if shit hits the fan. And everybody will tell you, be direct with me. I don't think I've ever had anybody say be direct, but they don't actually want you to be direct. But what it actually does is give you permission to be direct if needed. So I up front, and I'll do this in my TCMs as well, the training, coaching, mentoring meetings we do, or quarterly. And I'll say, like, adds that at some stage you're going to mess up, or I'm going to say something that upsets you. How would you like to navigate that when that happens? And you have to have this conversation when nothing's going wrong. It's like relationship, right? You can't have it in the heat of the moment. And then they'll go, just be direct with me. Just don't beat around the bush. And you go, like, is that genuinely what you want? or how would you like me to do it? Would you like me to, and I get literal. Do you want me to send you an email saying, hey, we need to discuss X, Y, Z. Come and meet me at 3:30. Do you want me to come out on the floor in front of everybody else and say, hey, can you come in my office right now? Because some people hate that. Like, I would have hated that. Don't make a show of me. I want an email and then I'll come and meet you at a certain time. Like, get really in the weeds of how they want that dealt with. But then, like, we coached nurses and doctors. Some of it's life critical. They haven't got time to send you a bloody email. So I think there's a level of resilience that we all just need to be taught, whether it be in the schools or preventative measures by the likes of Evocative or others. Live in, do great things as well. To be able to sometimes just take a bit of verbals. I don't know if that goes down well these days, but
I think it's valid.
Where do you sit with it? Like, I honestly think from time to time, as long as you know it's coming from a good place, and like, I have so many open conversations with my team, and I say to them, sometimes, guys, I actually don't have time to explain the decision I'm about to make, and I need you to know that I've got your back, I trust you, but I'm just going to make a decision and we're not going to have a debate on everything. Because I don't know what it's like here, but there's a lot of companies, everybody has a say on everything because it's an open floor policy. Everybody hears everything going on. It's just not required. Some people don't. So the guys in sales don't need to know about an administration process taking place or what plants are being ordered. But everybody's got an opinion. And I think we need to be given permission as leaders to just make that decision without offending everybody. And that comes down to upfront communication as well. Will get cancelled now.
In the last 12 months, you've had the experience of going over to the States, spending a lot of time with Grant Cardone and his team, and then obviously Jeremy Minor came over here, some obviously really well-known and successful people in the sales training space. What did you learn from them?
I'm going back in 3 weeks off to Vegas. So what did I learn? Daniel G. I'll give you my lesson from Daniel G. Speed.
Yeah.
Just does everything at speed. Says yes to everything and figures it out. Is it the way that I want to work? Not at that speed. Like he's a machine, but I still believe he will crash eventually. I mean, he does look after himself. He trains. He eats well. But can I increase my speed 20, 30%? I definitely can. Like if I'm going up against him directly, I'm not competing with him. Like for the amount of content that he puts out, for the amount of gigs that he's putting out, different scenario, get it. I've got kids. He doesn't have kids. Like we're in different lives. But the lesson was I can work an awful lot faster. With Jeremy, did you want these two specifically or just anybody? Doesn't matter. Any sales guys.
Yeah, great. Jeremy's good.
What did I learn from Jeremy? Jeremy was an interesting one. We spent about 9 days. He was here on the Gold Coast for 9 days. So he came into the office. I watched the way his team conduct themselves. Like that's always big for me. I think you can tell a lot about a leader, the way their team conduct themselves outside of work. And he's created a level of respect there. Like he's very polished, almost on all of the time, in a good way, very professional, very personable. But I'm watching him thank waiters and waitresses as they come and they deliver his food at the restaurant. Very particular with what he eats. Knows exactly what he wants and what he doesn't want. That made me think that he's very particular in his business with the people he wants, the people he doesn't want. And also then to the degree that he creates his programs and his training, it's like, okay, that's cool. I align more there from a training perspective because I'm that way inclined as well. So I guess if there was a lesson to me, there's like somebody's always watching, always watching. I remember Ron and Candy. I think you know Ron and Candy. Yeah. I remember asking Ron once, like, why did you choose to do our intensive program? And he's like, he said, I'll tell you exactly why. He goes, I remember one of the waitresses coming up and bringing you some food. And I remember watching every time she walked past you, looked up and thanked her every time. And I was like, what? Yeah, he goes, that's why I bought it. And then there was another one where I spoke to them outside of a lift. He goes, and you gave us time outside of a lift. You didn't have to. You're on your way back to your room and you said hello. That's why, like nothing to do with the sales content or like who you are as a person. So I think these guys, I think you have to accept if you're playing at that level that someone's always watching. Like, and if I always say, live your life like the person that could change your life is sitting next to you at all times. How would you act then? Would you be proud if the whole nation right now was watching what you're doing in every moment of your life? And if not, then you might want to change some stuff or not.
That's so powerful. And guys, lesson to the secret. What's Vegas? What's going on there?
I'm going to 10X GrowthCon.
Oh, so good.
Yeah. So it's the last one. Apparently,
like Tyson Fury's retired.
Closing down sale, Rugs a Million.
Yeah.
No, I do believe they've told me. I believe them. It's his last one in its current format. They normally say that's in little brackets, but and because we've now created our version of GrowthCon in Australia, and we're going bigger again at the end of this year. I just go for a recce. I go to as many events as I can. I will always learn something from. He doesn't even advertise who the speakers are. That's how good he is at filling a room. He just advertises who the previous ones were.
Jeez,
So you have no idea who's coming out. And
didn't get a call up.
So I'm going to Vegas. Can't say too much.
Oh, okay. There we go.
We had an awesome chat off air about scaling the business. Yours, ours, whatever it might be. You know, you go and spend some time with people like Grant Cardone, who are super successful, massive business. What's next for you? And does that kind of like give you the what if, like, could we just go global?
Yeah, like there's no way. You talk about the Necker experience. There's no way you walk off that island not thinking bigger. Like, is it? And that's, don't forget Necker. Just the people that you're around. Like, I know I'll come back from GrowthCon, like, I'm going to blow the place up again. Last time I came back, I went from a 300 person event to a 1,000 person event. Had no idea how we were going to do it, and then we did it. So God knows what will happen when I get back at the end of March. So it does. It excites me a lot. For us, we've acknowledged, and I think I've acknowledged and admitted, we put on some pretty bloody good events. I would argue we put on the best, definitely the best open source sales event in Australasia. There's no one else competing with us, and if Grant's going to step away from doing it in America, there's a window of opportunity there. I know Jeremy's doing his, Andy Elliott's doing his as well. So there's a market for it. What I want to do is really establish ourselves as a no pitch events organization. So I think you guys know this, but I went over to New Zealand and did a gig with Goggins that didn't really sit well with me. 4,000 people, it was an unbelievable experience. I was the MC. But there was a few things that happened throughout that day with people just pitching from stage ruthlessly. And it was, I don't believe, disproportionately, I don't think it was value to the audience. And I think people are craving like really valuable, enjoyable experiences and educational events in Australia. And there's not a lot of companies that are doing that without it attaching a big sales pitch to it. So on the flight back, I literally created on my phone in my notes, Swish Events, which is coming to life. We've acknowledged we're an events company now. Wow. We'll be touring the country in June. That's what do you call it? First time thing.
Teaser?
Bombshell. I don't know. So when's this going out? So June, we're going to be touring Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Perth. And then we will have our conference again at the end of the year. We couldn't get the conference center, so we've had to lower the numbers a little bit, but just about to confirm that space now. Got some big speakers lined up.
We're not coming on stage again, are we?
Yeah, those two fellas, they did so well at the last one.
I just think like we're in a fortunate position, without it sounding too dicky. Like, we don't need to make money from the events. A lot of the companies that are running events, they bring in a big brand speaker, a big name speaker, like a celebrity. They fill the room, and then they put sales speakers on, not sales coaches, people selling stuff from stage for 7 of 8 hours. And you're corralled into this room, and then you get pitched at, and you walk out feeling beaten up and broken. And some people will go and spend some money, and a portion of them will get great results. A portion of them will ask for refunds, and most people are just like, I don't know what just happened. And they don't even hang around for the headline speaker at the end, because they always put them at the end of the day. That's why I brought Jeremy on first thing next, because we want to break the mold. We've said we want to change the perception of what people think of sales professionals. Like, not every salesperson's a bad person just trying to make a commission. So creating that environment where we put on a bloody good show and we don't have to make money out of it. And again, the intent is not to make a sale. The intent is just to give value. And we ironically do very well out of it. Like, most people that come know how to use a website. If they like what they saw, they can reach out to our team. We don't need to stand there pitching them for hours on end.
And it's then you also attract the type of people you want to work with as well, rather than just the people you've hard closed into a pressured environment who might enjoy that kind of sales, right? They wouldn't align with Swish anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, some people listening and go, well, hold on, Ryan, you always say that you can't sell a secret. And there is that. So the structure of the events that we're creating is such where we'll say, look, guys, this is a 2-day event. There's going to be 20 hours worth of speaking. And for 30 minutes at the end of day one, if you'd like to figure out how you can continue the journey with Swish, stay behind. If not, we'll see you tomorrow. And just giving them the out. Yeah. And we do that. We've done that at our boot camps for many years. It serves us exceptionally well. We don't need to kind of seamlessly switch into some sales pitch halfway. I don't like it. I don't like doing it. I don't like receiving it. And I know you're not supposed to sell to yourself, but that's just the way I want to model the business. So that's what's coming.
I think the biggest compliment I can probably give your events is you learn so much, but you come away from it and it's such a reflective experience in a couple of different ways. Like, reflecting in the way, like, I don't know how you do it, but it gets you just thinking a bit more emotionally and like how lucky we are and the journey we're on. And, you know, as much as, yes, we have the goals and the end goals, just enjoy that journey and become a better person along the way. But then also it gives you that little boost and that kick up the arse where your end goals that you walked into that room with, they're no longer your end goals. They're the short-term goals.
I love that feedback. I appreciate it. It's like I love the phrase that we can be ambitiously grateful. you sometimes we get chastised for being overly ambitious, and where the conversation started around scaling. You go out there to the wrong people and say, "Oh, we're thinking about scaling." They're like, "You guys not happy with what you got? Like, come on, you're in an amazing office space. You got a great team. You must be doing all right." Like, why are we chastised for thinking bigger? And that's what I love about putting yourself in the right rooms. They won't do that. They will go, "Yeah, absolutely. Let's go. Let's go big." That doesn't mean you're not grateful. That doesn't mean that you're not humble. Like, I spend a lot of time reflecting. But when I say a lot of time, I mean I do it frequently, but I don't sit in it. I don't sit there for hours and hours going, "Oh, there's always someone worse off." Like, it's a terrible statement. There's always going to be someone worse off. But am I going to suppress my potential to appease those people that are like, "Oh, you guys are just chasing money"? And it's always from the people that didn't have the balls to go and give it a crack themselves.
Yeah, it's just putting yourself around the right people. Like, as you tell that story, I think back to, I spent an hour and a half the other day on a run with a friend, and we were talking about everything. And this friend's moved up from Melbourne in the last couple of years, and he works on the tools. And he's always had kind of people around him. He's like, "I want to start my own business, want to do it for myself." Kind of people around him that are always suppressing that and just saying, "Nah, you couldn't do that, mate. You couldn't do that. You're not good enough." And he's just like, now I'm up here and I'm hanging around with people like you, and the previous hour he'd been telling me about this plan, and I'm just like, "Yeah, and you could do this, and you could do this." Yeah. Like, why wouldn't you? You should 100% do this. And he's just like, it's incredible how you might never reach your potential just from surrounding yourselves with the wrong people.
I believe that's why people get so emotional at our events, because yes, it's a sales event, and we're not shying away from that. We rebranded, so we had the word sales in our company name. We're proud of it. But people don't expect that introspection where they're going, "Okay, well, what do I actually want? Very rarely do you just sit there in your day-to-day life. You're sitting there watching bloody Bachelor or NRL, whatever, and you go, "Oh, hold on a second, I'm going to reflect on what I want in life." Like, we don't do it, and they don't really do it in school. They go, "What career do you want?" They don't go, "What are your dreams?" You have a careers coach, not a dreams coach. And when we create that safe space for people to dream and really remove their fears for a second, that's quite emotional, because then firstly you recognize how many years you might have wasted not doing that. Yeah. And then we follow that up with giving you a roadmap to actually go and do it. All of a sudden, removing people's excuses is really scary, which is why, unfortunately, some people then quit their jobs or whatever. And I used to resist it. I stopped doing all that, the goal setting stuff and the mindset stuff, because businesses were like, "Oh, so-and-so just quit." I'm like, that's good, right? You had an employee that was probably giving you 70%. They weren't totally fulfilled. Like, now you've got an opportunity to improve your business culture and make sure that you can keep that talent in a better environment, get more out of them. Let's even get 100% or 90% out of them. So I think we have a duty of care to do that now. And it's when you don't expect to do that and you get it, that's emotional.
And why wouldn't someone shoot for the stars? Like, in the world we live in today, where technology is so impressive and you can go and start a business so easily. Obviously, you need to be good at what you do. Why would you not just give it a crack, shoot for the stars? And I always say, fuck it, if you're aiming for the stars and you fall halfway there, you're going to be a lot higher than everyone else who just carried on, ticking along in their normal, boring lives.
There's a caveat that comes with it though, right? Like, you got a mortgage, you got kids, you got responsibility. To roll the dice late, it's a bigger roll, right? That's why I actually get frustrated with the late teens all the way through their 20s, the ones that have got no kids, no mortgage, no responsibility. I'm like, this is the time you got to go for it, because you can lose whatever everything is, and you're still okay. For me, rolling the dice now, there's consequences to it, and this is what all the crazy ones on Neko are like. They're still rolling. They got all these responsibilities, and they're like, just give me some bigger dice. I want to roll. So there, because I agree with that to an extent. Yeah, why wouldn't you? There are lots of whys why I wouldn't. And I think that's why people get emotional, because it's like, I don't just have myself to think about now. I've got my family and I've got my kids and all of that. So it then becomes an educated role where like we did, I guess, where I've got my job over here, but behind the scenes, I'm building the business over here. And then you have to work so hard at the beginning to get this one off the ground so that it's paying you the same as you were earning here. So for a while, you've got to do 80 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week. And all of a sudden it's in the too hard basket, and I might as well just stay being an employee.
Full circle moment. Yeah.
Screw that.
I think the regret is the thing that would break me the most.
Of never
trying and always looking at someone else who had tried it and made it. That would absolutely break me. I could never stomach that feeling. Yeah. I think that would write me off. That'd be the worst feeling I could feel, I think.
So I often think that when I'm thinking about a different project or an event that we want to put on. It was actually a guy called Bernard on the island actually said it to me, because I was talking about, do you know what, maybe I should go bigger than 300. He's like, do 1,000. It's just like flippantly, just do 1,000.
Cheers, bro.
And he's like, well, who else would be doing it if you don't do it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think there is anybody. He goes, I bet there's someone planning it. And I'm like, there's somebody out there planning this. I don't even know they're planning it. And how am I going to be if I get back? Imagine if I just go on Facebook one day and then somebody's put Australia's largest sales conference, and all of a sudden they've just planted the flag. Like, that got me. And I don't know, maybe I did. Maybe I knocked them off their perch. I don't know. But I couldn't live with the thought that somebody else was going to do it and do it worse probably as well.
And purely just out of fear as well. If they did it because they're better or they're whatever the answer is, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's not just because I haven't got the balls to try.
Well, there's a reason Jeremy, Andy, Elliot, they're all doing events over in the States right now because Grant's doing his last one. So Jeremy and Andy have both just announced they're doing a big conference in States. Andy's got Goggins as his headline. Oh, right. But they're like, there's an opportunity here. Funnel Hacking Live with Russell Brunson's just finished in Vegas like last week. So there's 2 big events that are folding in America right now after both been running for 10 years. There's a market of thousands of people, and there's a bit of a race on to see who can get that.
I reckon we could talk him into this.
I like it.
Swish USA.
Swish USA.
Well, if you don't do it, mate, Jeremy Miner's going to do it.
So, yeah, well,
he's not better than you, is he?
Working that.
You wouldn't, would you?
You wouldn't. You just want me to say Jeremy Miner is not better than me.
But if obviously we've covered a lot of information. Some real high level stuff.
No idea what we're talking about.
Some more kind of the entry level stuff. But if someone is sat listening to this and they've never done any sales and communication training before, what are the first steps or like the top 3 actionables they can do from day one?
It's hard because the first one isn't actionable. The first one's a belief system. Like, you have to believe that it's possible in general. So you've got to get over the fact that something's not possible for you, or I can never learn to sell. I'm not that type of person. So there's the possible, the probable, and the practical. So it's possible somebody can do it. Is it probable that I could do it? Write down 3 or 4 reasons why you couldn't do it, and then read them 5 or 6 times and realize how shit that sounds. That you'll soon talk yourself out of not believing that that's probable. And then from a practical perspective, I just say, if they look at their day-to-day jobs, I'm trying to make this universal because they could be doing anything, right? Are you talking about a salesperson specifically, or just anybody?
Whatever you feel fits best.
If it's anybody, I would ask them just to look at their day-to-day role, maybe, or self-audit. This is I'm making this up on the fly, but this, because I actually think anybody could. I'm trying to really kind of validate that anybody could learn to do this. Self-audit their day-to-day. Self-audit how many conversations they have on a day-to-day basis, and then rate that conversation out of 10. How do you think you went in that conversation? Do you think you could have articulated something better? Could you have counter-argued better? Could you have requested something from your manager or your staff member or your colleague or a client better? Like, could you have got a better outcome? You're trying to get your kids to go to bed. How many times did you have to ask your kids to finish their dinner at the table, or to get into the shower, into the bath? And just start looking at every single conversation you have every single day of your life and go, wow, I'm an average 5 out of 10 communicator. And then from there, you will then get the belief that you've got room to improve. I think because most of us go, oh no, I'm all right. But we're not actually auditing whether we're all right or not. Then we can look at like first impressions and making sure that we understand you've got 1.48 seconds face to face. You've got 4.5 seconds over the phone. How to introduce yourself. We did the how statement earlier on. So if we go to networking events, if people go to social gatherings, when people say, so what is it you do for a living? And you go, well, you know how a lot of companies struggle with XYZ. Well, we help them with that through XYZ. What do you do? Like, just practice that one phrase. So you've got that social elevator pitch, so that you never miss an opportunity should they be presented to you. So I don't know, there's a couple of little things.
Gold, mate.
If someone sat at home listening to this and they're like me and Harvey were 20 months ago, or even before that, or maybe afterwards, maybe they started the business, but they haven't had the growth that they expected to, and they want to develop and grow and get better at sales and communication, mate, where do they find the Swish team?
Swish team, right in the heart of Surface Paradise. Come and see us at 4 Pell Street, 4/50 Pell Street. Me, socials, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, at Ryan Tuckwood Official on Instagram and Facebook. LinkedIn, I'm pretty active as well, or you can find us at swishsalescoaching.com.
Awesome, mate. Thanks for coming on again. Like you blew our mind last time with the story and where you've come from. And today we really, really wanted to dig into how people can implement this in our lives, because it's transformed our business, but it's transformed our lives as well. Like we were saying the other day, like, fuck, since we started this journey, we just feel like completely different people. Even Andy says it, like the progress we've had just as people has been astronomical.
That's so good. Like that's again, the best feedback I could ever receive. But it didn't start out like that. I just want to just quickly say something on what you just said there about last time we heard your story. You still heard my story this time as well, because I weaved it in throughout.
Oh, you've just switched us, isn't he?
Switched up.
Because the reality is they don't care, but they need to hear it, because you'll get new users, new listeners, that would hear it as well. So like you don't ever stop telling your story, but just learn how to weave it in and what depth to go.
Incredible, mate. You're an absolute wizard of what you do. Thanks so much for sharing with time with us.
We've been bloody swished by Mr. Swish there, haven't we?
You've been swished. Get on in the mic. Thank you, Jess.